I'm resident of Collinwood, Jules Sains for YouTube, joined by my buddy Gordon Dymowski and my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to discuss episode 1118. Really, really interesting 1840 parallel time. This episode is narrated by Lewis Edmonds. It's written by Gordon Russell, directed by Henry Kaplan. So, with this episode, guys, Ben, we know that the severed head of Judah Zachary has been brought back from the Orient by Desmond Collins, and he showed it to his mother in the prior episode. And Ben Stokes comes up and like, why'd your mother run out of here? What did you guys think of Ben Stokes' old man makeup?
It was like going to Cinnabon. I mean, it is bumpy and brown and glistening and maybe just as sweet. I don't know. It's hideous. It's really grotesque.
Yeah, I mean, even by 1960s standards, it's a little. I've seen burnt Lithuanian bacon buns that look better than Ben Stokes.
Oh Lord.
It's still better than the makeup on the Thin remake.
Right? Well, it's not that it's bad. I mean, it is, television of the era when Dick Smith is off filming, Little Big Man. But it's, it's all things considered. It's not that it's bad. It's that it's disturbingly kind of sack filled. It's just really, he looks sick, which I think was the point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when you compare it to the 1995 makeup, where it looked better, but it also, I think, was meant to be not just old Stokes, but old something physically violent happened to him Stokes. Yeah. Whereas 1840 Stokes is kind of like, okay, well let's just put stuff on Thayer's face and see if he notices. Is his mouth visible? Yeah, we're good.
It's a lot to hide.
What did you guys think of Lewis Edmonds in this episode as older Daniel Collins? I really like his performance as the character.
It's very touching. He is the he is the first kid who ran home from school to watch Dark Shadows, but grown up. I'm looking at a thing from my favorite book here. It says, when Louis Edmonds, Daniel shows lucidity, our hearts soar as profoundly as they crash when he descends into Babel. In this episode, his embrace of Barnabas and his insistence that he take the old house both save time and ring with a righteousness and rightness that makes him one with the viewers. It's about effing time. It's what we would do too. After all, who is Daniel but the first generation of kids to grow up watching Dark Shadows? That strange energy resonates throughout the character and right at the viewers. At last, Barnabas is not a stranger. Is Daniel crazed enough to see him as safe or sane enough not to listen to his inner child whispering murmurs of danger? Who cares? Barnabas is back in business and with considerably less situational guano to wade through.
What did you think, Gordon?
I thought it was, not only was it touching, but I think it shows, in terms of the character, like this is, I think, the first time we've really seen a character. We see him at one point in time, and then we see him grow up, and not in a linear fashion, not like Quentin day after day or Barnabas day after day. And I think ultimately Daniel is a very broken man, because if you think of it in terms of age, if we assume he's like 10 or 12 in 1795, he's only in his early 50s, but he's almost like in his 70s or 80s. And the fact that he's insistent that this is cousin Barnabas and not accept Barnabas' story, I think you can see where he is like, you can see the trauma that Barnabas back in 1795 inflicted on the family, because it shows that Joshua might not have been the most fatherly to Daniel. And I mean, you don't know where Millicent is. It just shows that first generation of the first significant post 1795 generation of Collinses are messed up, because then you'll get Gabriel, and Edith. And I mean, Desmond in this episode, it's like, oh, why should my mom get upset? All I did was brought her a model of a severed head. Like that's between that and Daniel, you can tell the Collins family, seriously, like, no, like they're like the original white trash.
Daniel Collins in this episode actually makes mention of Millicent having a book that contained information on the Bedford atrocities. And Daniel goes, "Where's Millicent?" And that's when Ben Stokes tells him Millicent died, years ago. And I like that little character mention we get, and all this is brought upon when, as you pointed out, when Joshua sees Barnabas again, and he goes, "I've been waiting for you to come back." It's like,
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of shows how far out he is.
Yeah,
because
it does. It shows something else too, but I want to get to that in a second. Keep going.
I was about to say, it just shows how not only, like, obviously he didn't know that Barnabas was in a chain coffin, but being told that, okay, Barnabas has gone, and expecting someone from the English side to come back. And we don't know what the official, what basically, Joshua could have easily told them all, yeah, Barnabas ran off with some Martinique chambermaid, screw him, come on, Daniel, wave goodbye. Daniel, it looks like Daniel, because I, Joshua Collins, see the clouds in my eyes.
Yeah. Great Elton John. That's the thing.
Here we go. Elton John.
In this episode too, Daniel makes mention of Angelique. He makes mention of Barnabas going to England, but he also remembers Angelique as well. That the terrors of Angelique and what she had done, causing Naomi to die so young. He mentions Naomi. We get a Naomi mention in this episode, which I love too. So we are getting mentions of 1795/1797 in this episode, which is really smart by the writers, and really, really well acted by just, obviously Ben Stokes, Lewis Edmonds, Jonathan Frid, doing a really, really great job of sort of, because Barnabas is really sort of tap dancing around the past with, he's hoping, Daniel doesn't remember him. And again, Daniel, like you pointed out, he's more acting like somebody who's in his 70s or 80s, if you will, mentally, but he's not physically. He just,
right.
He looks
1840s, 70s or 80s. 70s or 80s now is not quite the same. I mean, just to put that in perspective.
Okay. So I like how Barnabas is also asking Ben Stokes about Gerard Stiles, and he says that Gerard just came here and he puts on the charm, but he doesn't full bend, that he's out for something, but he doesn't know what yet. He hasn't made his move for whatever he's after. And that's true, he hasn't. And Barnabas actually meets him in this episode, which I like. Also, like, he goes up to Joshua's room with Ben. He helps Ben get not Joshua, but Daniel back up to the room, and comes down later and then talks to one Gerard Stiles and starts questioning him about Quentin's death. Because it's believed that Quentin died at sea.
That last big wave, it got him.
What did you guys think of that too? I know we know Quentin's gonna live, and so his son Tad. But what did you guys think of that little tease that Quentin may be dead?
Well, it just lets me know that Gerard's up to something.
Yeah.
This is a really, everybody says that this is like 1897 is, of course, incorrect in my humble opinion, because one of the big differences is, relatively speaking, how much Joy and Barnabas know about 1840
Yeah.
compared to what he knew about 1897. And in a lot of ways, how prepared they are, at least for certain surprises. And this qualifies as one of them. So they're in a very kind of privileged spot where they know just enough about the timeline to see where things go right and wrong and where things don't add up. And of course, we're in the very same position as viewers.
Gordon?
And I think it helps too that the way that James Storm plays Gerard Stiles, he plays it with enough villainy, but he never even approaches the top, much less go over it.
Well,
we know he's lying, not just because we've seen his ghost before, but he plays it in such a way. And I think a lot of it is Gordon Russell's writing, because he's really good at that. Like with the banter with Desmond and Barnabas, and then later between Barnabas and Storm, that kind of, I know something you don't know, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
That's good. Yeah.
I think when I watch this episode over again, I pick up one thing, that Gerard Stiles, though he's also called by another name, I don't believe he's lying about thinking Quentin and Tad are dead. I think he really thinks they died.
All right.
I do. I believe he believes his story, because think about it, here's a guy at sea. He says he saw them go. He didn't, he saw the waves come up over and they were gone. He told Quentin to get below, but Quentin didn't listen. I think he truly believes they're dead. No, he didn't see a body, but sea storms can be very, very violent. There's a movie coming out, if it's not out already, about where that one girl went around the world in a boat. She was like a teenager or something at the time, and there was a very violent storm for her boat, and how it rocked her back and forth and all that shit. So sea storms, when you're on a boat and you're on top, you're on deck, you're struggling to get the sails down or whatever you're trying to do, and here's someone else trying to help you, and you just see this giant wave and it takes them. What are you to do? He said now, do I believe he went off the boat? I don't know if I believe that, but I do believe he saw the wave coming over for them.
I think he believes that he saw some friends of his in another boat and talked to the at the wherever the coastal stop was, and arranged for them to be pretty close to the boat when he sank it and pushed Quentin and Tad overboard. Maybe not in that order, and then got in the boat with his friends with the loot that they got and hightailed it for wherever they wanted to go, America.
Yeah. I think Gerard believes in that Quentin and Ted are dead in the same way that many con artists actually believe the story that they put out. It's like someone who claims they're a psychic, who's good at cold reading, will eventually develop that skill so much that they actually believe they are psychic.
And that's how I know I'm not good at cold reading.
Mm-hmm.
Jewel, you really want to laugh? Let me show you something. Hey, Gordon,
yes?
do you know the tune of the Cantina theme in Star Wars? The basics of it?
No, I don't. Please tell me. Yeah. Dun 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 dun.
Give me a little of that. Just give me a little of it.
Dun 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 dun.
I came to that horrifying realization a few minutes ago.
Well, on a temporary Star Wars diversion, go pick up from a certain point of view. It's a book about Return of the Jedi. My good friend Adam Lance Garcia wrote a story in it about Dexter Jetster. Go buy it. Go read it. I think it's coming out this week. So just now back to Dark Shadows.
Well, wait a minute.
Commercial.
Who would win in an oil wrestling match, Dexter or Porkins?
I think the audience would win that one.
Okay, good. Jewel, continue.
Well, the real winner. Well, I'm going to add a third contestant.
Oh,
Porco Rosso. From the movie Porco Rosso.
I was about to throw that in. You read my mind.
Fun movie. With this episode, I've mentioned Desmond Collins, who that's my favorite character John Carlin got to play. I really enjoyed it. What did you guys think of Desmond? He's the one who brings the head of Judah Zachary to Collinsport, to Collinwood, as a gift for Quentin, and then he just keeps it for himself.
Well, sure. I mean, the thing is that the head of Judah Zachary is cooked inside the case. So as long as that case isn't perforated, it's like Spam. It's good forever.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I think of Desmond? I think, well, I mean, if he's weird enough to think Quentin would like the head, he probably, it's like, I might as well. It's like buying somebody a sweater that you think is, really quite, well, I've never done that. That's kind of weird sounding now. So forget I mentioned that. But I think, if you buy somebody a Ferrari, then you probably, they better be a good friend. Okay, Jewel. Yeah.
Gord, what did you think?
I thought Carla did it. I like the fact that, unlike Carl or Willie, Desmond seems to have his stuff together, relatively speaking. I mean, the fact that he went toe-to-toe with Barnabas in that one scene, verbally, and that it wasn't like Willie would be like, oh, gee, sorry, Barnabas, didn't mean to do it. And Carl would be like, hey, look at my gun. Pop, you see the little flag comes out, bang. Whereas Desmond, I think, has a little bit more of a, he's got that Loomis, Carl goofiness, but there's also a core to him.
It's a transitional character to Kendrick.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so.
I really enjoyed the character and how at one point he could be very wacky, but then he could also be very serious about something when he wanted to be. He's like,
what he is? He's the star of an English action series of the era. When I think of the combination you just mentioned, I think like John Steed, even certain aspects of Doctor Who now and then, wacky while he wants to be, but then when it's business, it's business.
You know what the head of Judah Zachary reminds me of? It reminds me of two things. It reminds me of Fester, Uncle Fester's head in a box from the old Addams Family. And it also have you ever heard of a wrestler named Al Snow?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Judah Zachary.
He would carry a mannequin's head to the ring, and the mannequin's head would talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
Reminded me straight up Judah Zachary.
Yeah, he was lucky.
So I like it. Also in this episode, Barnabas gets permission to live in the old house from Daniel, which is discussed in the Dark Shadows Daybook, which is really cool. What did you guys think of that?
Gordon, I'm eager for your thoughts.
Well, I'm thinking that this is set up, and this is based on everyone's comments. 1840 is the first time Dark Shadows does a sequel to a pre-existing story. And I think it's also nice, too, because it's one of those, it kind of shows how well the writers learned how to get to the point real quickly. There isn't 3 days of, oh, are you really the cousin from England? I think that Barnabas knows that Daniel is kind of, Barnabas is trying to be real careful, but Daniel's kind of not quite there. I think it's just very, very simple. It's like, oh, okay, you're the guy's son, your sister's upstairs. Yeah, have the old house.
Yeah.
I concur.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that he gets permission to live in it right away. It sort of cuts it out. It cuts to the chase.
Barnabas has this down to a science now.
Yeah.
One of the things, not in the daybook, but in this thing I wrote called Collins Chronicles, is really good, but I can't release it. that, almost the running gag of Barnabas having to, renovate yet again. I mean, how he is, think of this. He does everything he does heroically, and even without really a Willie Loomis. I don't think he has a Willie Loomis in this. I guess he has Julia out there with the Lowe's card, but it renovates this place.
And yeah, I can tell you, and my conclusion is that now we know why it looked so great in 1967, where it was just cobwebs and maybe some papers on the floor, because every 50 years it would get renovated.
That's right. That's the 1897 renovation just falling apart.
Yeah, the Gypsies renovated it in 1897.
Yeah, who knew Sandra was good at tuck pointing?
I mean, doesn't in Angelique's it's the Salem branch. In the Salem branch, doesn't they burn down the house, and so they build a new house.
Yeah, the woman
buys it, or Angelique's daughter buys it, I think.
Yeah,
and immediately lets a bunch of hippies live there.
Yeah, this woman who, in Barnabas's mind, is the reincarnation of Angelique, if you will, who knows how to. She builds the house back to exactly how it looked, and he's that's what makes him suspicious too. Like who would know that other than Angelique? So
I don't think the Salem branch was planned when that ending that burned down the old house was written.
No, I don't either. But I think it's a great read if you guys haven't read it.
Yeah, Laura Parker's books are dynamite.
Yeah. Great book. I love how they go back, Barnabas and her go back in time in that book. How Laura Parker writes that sequence is really awesome. With this episode, what's you guys' favorite scene?
I must admit, I really, the thing that stands out is, it shouldn't, but it's James Storm's BS monologue about the ship. I'm a sucker for nauticals. I know there's all this stuff about Barnabas and Daniel. I guess, anything involving Daniel, of course, in the episode is touching and harrowing.
Yeah, I like the sparkiness between Barnabas and Desmond, because you're not used to that between Carlin, a Carlin character, and Fred. You're used to some level of this guy ain't all there. And this is the first time we see a Carlin character who kind of is quite there.
Yeah. I really enjoyed Ben Stokes wanting to be the hero without really realizing it, of this arc in a sense. He wants to destroy the head of Judah Zachary. And here's Barnabas, who he knows is a vampire, who knows who would help him, and he chooses, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of this. And I feel the reason he does this is because he's always been loyal to the family. He's always been loyal to Barnabas. He feels he owes them one more thing. And this is going to be his final act, because it's going to get him killed.
You think, wait, about who, Barnabas?
No, Ben Stokes.
Oh, Ben Stokes, sure. This is what he has left in him.
Yeah, to be clear, what I was saying was that Ben Stokes feels that he owes the family. He's been loyal to the family. He's been loyal to Barnabas. Barnabas is his friend. And he doesn't ask for his help. He chooses to try to take on the head of Judah Zachary all by himself and destroy it by himself. And this very thing is going to be the death of him.
Yeah.
It's really it's a cool scene at the end. How he comes in, is anybody here? Where the devil is, everybody? And the room's real dark in Rose Cottage, but really cool. Is there something you guys want to add about this episode?
It's part of a very solid arc that I think is really beneficial to the series overall. It's one of those highlights of it really is one of those highlights of 1840, because here's the truth. All of the time travel sequences start out really exciting, and they all have little micro arcs of like 3 or 4 episodes that are really good. What we forget is that there's a lot of Worthington Hall, and this is not Worthington Hall, if you know what I mean.
Gordon?
Yeah, I think this episode, I mean, I've really grown to appreciate the 1841 sequence simply because they knew that either the end was coming, they were kind of, they may have known the end was coming, but they also kind of knew, like, look, if we're going to do our greatest hits, let's just go punk rock with it. I mean, there's an efficiency, there's twists and turns, and I think this episode it's one of the capstones and one of the reasons why this arc is. A lot of people don't remember it or haven't seen it, but you really are missing out on a really good ride.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I said about 1113. It's the payoff, and I think sometimes in soaps people don't want payoff because payoff implies the end. But once you know that Dark Shadows 66 is canceled and has been canceled for 52 years, then you approach it completely differently. I think I won't say the problem, but the challenge that we find is, I think a lot of viewers love Dark Shadows for nostalgia, and that nostalgia is very deeply satisfying. And so I think when they come to a certain point that honestly gets uncomfortable, which is 1995, which is not interested in being fun, I think they have the attitude I have towards, James Bond movies now and Avengers and all of that. It's like, I don't go see a superhero movie to watch Tony Stark die. It's just, I mean, if you're Nicholas Meyer, you can get away with it, but you've got to be Nicholas Meyer. So, and by that I mean just as good, and not quite as good. So my attitude about those movies is, that's exactly what I go see a James Bond movie for, to watch an exciting mix of cocktails and intrigue and gadgets and watching James Bond die. No, so I think that really may be the attitude. It's like, oh, we're in 1995. It's this. Oh, and did Gerard just like rape Julia? And did she go along with it? Because episode 210 is right here on this disc, and Willie's being choked. All is right with the world. I mean, and that's a legitimate relationship to have with the series. And I think that's one of the challenges, is getting people to be comfortable with what this sequence has to offer and what it is, and that you can watch it and then go back to 211. But okay, now just to counter that, there is something about an unfinished symphony for a hero, because like at the end of a John Carpenter movie where there's always that little tag, little extra, with this you get to own the rest of the narrative. You get to definitively in your mind own what happens to Barnabas and the millionaire and Marianne and all the rest. So there's also that. I know it's a very long, weird explanation, but there's a lot that's been on my mind about this stuff. So it was a good chance to talk about it. Thank you.
Did you guys listen to the Haunted Grounds of Collinsport that me, Christine, and Kara did?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Tell us all.
Well, I was talking about, what if the Collins family themselves aren't from this Earth? What if they're from another planet? What if they're from space? What if they're humans, a different form of humans from space? What
Do
if
they know it?
No.
Okay.
What if they're the last descendants of this lost civilization called Atlantis? What if they're Atlanteans? We don't know. Again,
if the show had gone into the 1970s, I think that's easily something that they would have brought out. Jewel, I'm totally serious.
Maybe. I don't know. Again, that's something I brought up to Christine and Kara, and they said they could see it. It's a great conversation the three of us all had, so I hope you guys listened to it. When are you guys next available? Is Thursday good for both of you?
I can do Thursday.
I can do Thursday.
Okay. I think it's Gordon's turn to pick the episode. So,
Okay, I'm going to choose episode 508.
508. Well, now I got to find out what is Dark Shadows 508.
It's the one after 507 and before 509.
That's the one I thought it was. All right. My suspicions are confirmed.
Yeah, but it's good you know your math, Patrick.
Well, okay, 508. Okay. 508. It's cooking up. Cooking up. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Gordon, wonderful choice. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh. Yeah.
And if you're both lucky, I will get to basically I'll use it as a way to lambaste a character in the first 210 episodes of Dark Shadows, not mentioning who. That way we can get Jewel all riled up and
Oh, no,
you know,
no. Hey,
and then Patrick, give me the hey, look, that's Art Wallace. No, we can't have that argument.
No, oh, that is one I do. Yeah, it is Art Wallace. That's it's a separate show. Sort of. Jewel, I had this idea. You know the Barnabas Collins game?
The board game?
Yeah, the board game.
I've heard of it.
Well, you know the gimmick in it, right?
No.
Well, people had to find the bones to this little skeleton and assemble it, I guess, first. You know about this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Barnabas Collins game with a little skeleton, and does it have the full thing? I wanted to make a mock-up era-looking Sarah Johnson game. It's the Mrs. Johnson game, and you have to go through Collinwood getting little bottles of booze that you've stolen and kind of hidden around the house, and get it all back in the liquor cabinet before Roger comes home.
There you go.
Does it also involve gluing back together frosted glass?
Is it? Oh, God. Well, that's okay. This is what you get in the game, is that in the Barnabas Collins game, you got vampire teeth if you won. And in this, you get a frosted glass to, throw against the wall. You can only play it once, I guess. But, after then, it's up to you and your own glasses. Make sure to frost them first.
Oh my God! Could you imagine what a Quentin Collins board game would have been like? Oh my God!
Well, I think Penthouse made a number of those games, and you can buy them at Spencer's Gifts.
I believe it.
Yeah, it involved a lot of heavy drinking, so bring your own brandy.
I've been in Spencer's. There's a lot of naughty stuff in there.
I managed. I was the third key at a Spencer's Gifts in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And the first thing I heard from a customer after watching my training videos, I can't repeat. But the real problem there was the greeting cards, the dirty greeting cards being near everything, because people would touch the gels and things and then go touch the greeting cards and look at them, and they'd never buy them, of course, because you need a hazmat suit. But it was endlessly inventorying and replacing, just moving around into the proper spaces, these horrible gunky novelty cards that just existed for people to fondle. It was a horrible job. So there, I said it.
When you walk in the Spencer's in Pennsylvania up here, all the naughty stuff is displayed proudly like a bunch of band boy posters. It's like, Jesus Christ.
That's a word off the Amish. After they freeload a ride down there. Have you heard about that?
No.
I've heard. This is what I've heard. Is not all, but there are a number of people who wear sort of black and white. Maybe they're just goths, who with a Lincoln fetish, who like to get rides from people all the time. They don't want to own cars or any of that, but they'll take a free ride anytime. It's what I've heard. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's about all. I'm sure there are people who are not that way.
Yeah, I can speak to that because I've seen Amish people come out of the Red Line here in Chicago downtown
as passengers.
Yeah, they're passengers.
Yeah.
I don't know if they paid a fare. They could have said, "Hey, I don't need to pay you anything. Religious freedom or whatever."
Julie recently visited an Amish farm.
Yeah. She give anybody a ride out of it? Here's the thing. I'm talking horrible things about the Amish. How are they going to see me? So that's horrible. But I'm sure they're lawyers. But
guys, this has been a lot of fun.
Every group does this. Every group, and I will.
Hey, Amish! I've got a better idea for the Amish. Rather than horse and buggies and freeloading rides, 2 words: van life.
Okay. How did the girl get pregnant?
I don't know. How did she get pregnant?
2 men a night.
I think one of the band members from ZZ Top is actually Amish. I don't know.
No, he has some sort of weird hand crank to make his guitar spin.
Oh my god! Links.
I'm sorry, Amish. I'm sorry. All Amish Dark Shadows viewers have my apologies.
Oh my god! Links to Gordon's Amazon page will be in the description box. Links to where you can get the Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. It's going to be in the description box. Gentlemen, I'll see you Thursday night for episode 508.
Joel, hold on. I'll tell you what's in your subscription box, and it's this. Guess what went live today on Amazon?
Oh, the audio.
The Dark Shadows Daybook 1.
Cool.
Dark Shadows Daybook 2 already came out a couple of days ago. So now they are both available on audio. Read by the fabulous Mary Johnson.
I'll leave links to the audio to both in the description box for the Dark Shadows Daybook and Dark Shadows Daybook Unbound. Go pick those. Go listen to those guys. Guys, I'll see you Thursday night for episode 508. Take care. Guys, 10:30.
Smells good.
Yep, it'll work.
Bye.